What's up and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be showing you how to animate a script logo in After Effects and also using a little Adobe Illustrator as well. It's a really cool trick and it's something that's very difficult to do. If you have tried to animate a script logo and you don't know what you're doing, you probably just gave yourself a headache or it didn't turn out very good. I'm going to show you the trick to make it look really awesome, and I'm going to be using this logo I recently created for the comedian Theo. Don't know if you've heard of him. He's a really funny guy, but I did this logo for him recently and I used the script lettering style and I wanted to animate it. And so I went through this process and I will show you how I did all of it. So starting off, we're in Adobe Illustrator and you can see that I have the logo just as it is. I already have this logo separated into its different pieces. So if you don't, you'll need to go ahead and do that. You'll have to cut it apart into its different pieces. So make sure that you make note of that. But anyway, so what I did, and this is the most important part, is number one, you need to divide your type and separate everything. So divide and separate, sort of like divide and conquer. What you have to do is you have to take every single part of the script that's going to be animating and put them into a separate layer. So you can see I do that here. I have tons of layers and I'm adding in the different parts of the script. And so every little part, one thing to note is if you have something like this E where it's going to loop over itself, you need two pieces to that. You need the first half of the loop. The first half is going to be that lower part of the E, and the second half is going to be the other part. And I'll show you how you work with that when we get into After Effects. But the point is, you need to put these all into their own individual layers. And here, the next thing you're going to do, number two, is you're going to create an animation path. So an animation path is basically how the logo is going to animate. And you're creating a line that goes throughout the type. And so basically what I did here is I created lines, individual lines, not one line. They need to each be individual. And I created lines that basically follow the route of the letters as I want them to animate. Something that I didn't do here that I should have done is that actually this also should be each in its own layer. So if you have the H, then you need to have the H in its layer, and then you need to have the animation path in a layer directly above it. And then you have the first part of the E, and then the animation path directly on top of that. So basically each layer should have only one part of the logo, and then directly above that in a new layer, it should have the animation path for that piece. And you keep following that pattern all the way up. All right, now we're gonna bring into Adobe After Effects. While we're doing that, I wanna say if you've not subscribed to the channel, I would encourage you to go ahead and do so. It's just a great way to help support the channel. And also I post new content all the time, things from logo animations to how to use Photoshop, creating GIFs, really anything. And so as I do, you'll get those updates and you'll get to see new content as it comes out. So if you haven't, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. It would help me out a ton. All right, so now that we're in After Effects, we're gonna do a few different things here. But the first thing we're gonna do, so part three, or number three, is to convert to shape layers and to mask everything. So what you can do is you can select everything, and then you're gonna right click, create shapes from layer. Create shapes from layer. And so when you do that, it's gonna turn all of your Adobe Illustrator layers into shapes. And I'm not going into how exactly I bring it into After Effects. I'll just link that in the comments, or I'll put that in the comments below. It's really easy. But basically, once you open After Effects, you're going to do that. You're going to right click, create, and then create shapes from vector layers. At this point, what I do is I bring all of those shape layers up to the top. And so you can do that by, I believe, Command close bracket should bring it all the way to the top. And then the other layers, you can delete them or you can hide them or you can just ignore them. You don't need them anymore, the Illustrator layers. So now everything should be in the proper order. And what you're gonna do is you're going to mask these different layers. And so the way to mask is really simple. All you have to do is if you look over where it says Track Matte, TRKMAT, it's a little shortcut right there, in your layers in After Effects, you're gonna take whatever layer has that shape. So if it's that curve of the H, that layer, you're gonna click on it and you're going to make it an alpha matte. So it should be the first one. Let's see, yep, right here, the first one, you make it an alpha matte. And so basically what this is doing, this is my rudimentary way to explain this, a matte or a mask, this is a really important concept. So for example, I would be that H shape. And then this is the layer above it, which has that animation path. And so what a mask is, it's basically got a hole cut out and it's only gonna show what is underneath that hole, what's inside of that hole. And so what we're doing is we are creating a way for this shape to animate. So if that H is needing to animate, what I'm saying is I only want you to animate what's under the H, basically reveal the H with this animation path. So what we'll do in a minute, we'll make that path kind of go like this to move with the way that the letter would move, and then it will reveal the letter. If that doesn't make sense, just stick with me, you'll get it. Number 4, we're gonna use the trim paths feature, and we're also gonna use easy ease. One thing I would suggest, you don't have to do this individually. You can select multiple layers at a time and work with them in After Effects. Very helpful to do. So what you wanna do is go ahead and select all of these animation path layers. So you're gonna select all of them, you'll twirl them down, and then within there, you're gonna find the stroke option, and then you're going to do the little add button and add trim paths. Trim paths. What you can really do is just start by doing this with the first one, and then you're gonna add it to all the subsequent ones. So start with the first one, and you'll add a trim path. So it doesn't do anything at first. If you twirl it down, you're gonna see some options for start and stop, start and end. So you wanna make sure that you are starting wherever your line is. It should be at 0, and so there's no line. And so you'll put a keyframe there, and then you'll go ahead and put another keyframe where there is 100%. And so you'll bring it from 0 to 100%, and you should see your line will trim out. Like it'll basically grow from along the line, and that's exactly what you want to do. So you want to get it to looking exactly like that, to where it's trimming out. And then the other thing you're going to do is in your stroke settings within that shape layer, you're going to increase the width of that stroke until it fully reveals the whole logo. So you'll see if your path or your animation is a little too thin, it won't look right. And so you're going to increase it until it fills up that entire area of the stroke. So you're going to do that, and then what you can simply do is if you take that trim paths option, you select it in the layer and copy it, then you can bring it down to all the other layers and you can just paste it in. It'll automatically paste it in the same spot. Great shortcut is to click U, and U will reveal all of the keyframes for everything you've got. So now you should have all of your layers. They should have track mats. They should also have this trim paths, which is animating along. Right now, if you try playing it, it's not gonna look pretty because it's all gonna animate in at the same time. And you also gotta make sure your widths for all of your strokes are the right amount. They need to be pretty chunky, most likely, to reveal the entire shape that you're trying to reveal. So one thing you're gonna do is I want you to take your cursor and just drag a huge rectangle, just drag over all of those keyframes. And then you're gonna right click, or a shortcut is Command F9, or you can right click and you can make these Bezier keyframes. So what this is gonna do is it's going to let the keyframes be a little smoother when they start and finish. If you wanna give extra control on it, again, highlight all of them, and then you can go to your graph editor, you'll see that little option, and you can adjust more fine exactly how they come in. For me, I like to get them all exactly the same and consistent before I do anything else. So get them consistent, and then once you're done, we're gonna move on to part 5, which should bring the whole deal together, and that is to adjust your timing. And so an easy way to do that, you could move these keyframes up and down, but for me, with Theo's logo, I want it to start with the T, then the H, then the E, then the O. Like I want it to be like it's being written with a pen or something, because it's all script and it all kind of flows together. So what I want to do is the Theo logo, if you see the layers on the right side, I need to be making sure the Theo logo is in the first spot, so that you can just, or the T, you can kind of keep it where it is. Then the stem of the T, I'm going to push it further down. Then the H, going to push it further down. And basically you're going to push both the layer that has your shape in it and the layer that has your animation on top. You're going to treat them as a pair. So move them down, each sequentially, so it kind of looks like a ladder. And then when you play it, it should animate in that order. Okay, so it should animate in that order, and that's gonna give you the order, and you'll have to fine tune it a little bit. Some things need a little more time, some things need a little less. This is where you can go back in, and if you realize that it feels like a certain part animates too quickly, you can just stretch out that keyframe a little bit, that start or end keyframe in your trims path, stretch it out a little bit, and then it should kind of adjust the timing. And from here, you're just making small adjustments until it looks great to you. And at the end, you should have something that looks just like this. That's pretty nice. So that's 5 simple steps on how to animate a script logo. This is pretty simple. You can do more things with the animation, but this will give you a clean animating in script logo effect. So that's all for today. If you like this video, again, feel free to like it. And then also I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel or drop a comment below telling me what you learned. And that's all for today. We'll see you next time.